All right, let's begin in the U.S., where 1 year into President Donald Trump's second-term presidency, the administration is highlighting what it calls major achievements, from tax reforms aimed at stimulating growth to tougher immigration enforcement and trade policies designed to protect American industries. Over the past 12 months, President Trump has also pursued an assertive foreign policy, pressing allies on defense spending, and renegotiating trade deals. But as the president marks this 1 year milestone, his latest moves have sparked international uproar. President Trump has renewed his push to acquire Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, citing national security concerns. These escalating tensions over Greenland and Europe underscore how his presidency continues to be both disruptive and defining on the global stage.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
In his first year back in office, President Trump has completely shifted the U.S. approach to immigration, launching the most visible enforcement effort seen in history while closing the door to many legal pathways for entering the U.S. The administration advanced sweeping changes to immigration policy unprecedented in their breadth and reach. Consular offices were told to stop processing applicants from 26 African nations starting 21st of January, while the State Department reassesses how it weighs the likelihood that foreigners could become a public charge on U.S. taxpayers. The latest edict brings the total number of African countries facing total and partial restrictions to 39, almost three-quarters of all 54 nations on the continent. The new list includes a mix of countries that the U.S. has a difficult relationship with: Somalia, Eritrea, and regional powerhouses including Nigeria and Ethiopia, but also key U.S. allies including Egypt, Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, and countries that the U.S. has been courting for their minerals: DRC, Rwanda, and Guinea. Also on the list are Senegal and Liberia, among the countries that Donald Trump invited for his working lunch with African leaders last year. The Trump administration also expanded a controversial visa rule requiring applicants from some countries, including Nigeria, to post bonds of up to $15,000 on a B1, B2 visa before being granted entry. The U.S. cited high rates of visa overstays and insecurity as reasons for the restrictions. In December, the U.S., through its African Command, launched strikes against terrorists linked to the Islamic State group in Sokoto, northwest Nigeria. The Trump administration has previously accused the Nigerian government of failing to protect Christians from jihadist attacks and has claimed a genocide is being perpetrated. Mr. Trump had labeled Nigeria a country of particular concern, a designation used by the U.S. State Department that provides for sanctions against countries engaged in severe violations of religious freedom. However, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, told the media it was a joint operation and had nothing to do with a particular religion.
Now, joining me on the show for more on this is founder, Constituency for Africa, Melvin Foote. He joins me from Washington, D.C. International Affairs Analyst Boya Kyoko also joins me on the show. Good to have you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us.
All right, so a lot of people, as I raise the conversation on President Trump's 1 year in office, everyone seems to be shocked that it's just been 1 year. It looks like, 4 years happened in 365 days. Let me start with you, Melvin Foote. Is that the same feeling that Americans are getting, it looks much more than 1 year?
Yeah, well, most of us, especially those of us of African descent, we feel like we've been overwhelmed by this bulldozer. And we feel like it's been about 10 years. We can't remember when we could breathe before. So we're overwhelmed by this first year in office. And we are definitely have to rethink how we're going to go about trying to change the U.S. policies, especially toward Africa.
And let me bring you in, Boye. It's been 1 year of the world being upturned. A lot of criticisms. But as you look at this administration, how much success has it recorded?
Yeah, thank you for that question. You can dissect the last 1 year from different angles. For the supporters of President Trump, they will say, "Oh, he has promised certain things, and he has fulfilled his promises on those things." Now, generally speaking, it will always be divided because 75 million Americans voted for him, and 77 million voted against him. So it's going to always divide the way people view and see his last 12 months. So it's going to be neither here nor there, depending on who you're talking to.
And I also want to get the same comments from, or statements to that question from Melvin Foot as well. Has this administration recorded any success at all? Because all we hear about are the criticism based on his foreign policy. Melvin, the question is for you.
Is that for me?
Yes, Melvin.
Okay. We see nothing but devastation. We started with USAID, and the dissolution of USAID totally wiped out our ability to help refugees in Africa, help with natural disasters, help with famine relief, Sudan. All of that has been damaged by the decision to dissolve USAID. We also see the travel ban, banning, here we are talking about we want to do business with Africa. We talk about, advancing the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, the trade bill, but yet Africans can't come to the United States. And overwhelming countries that actually supported Trump, countries like Liberia, now all of a sudden you can't come to the United States, Senegal, Nigeria, we see nothing but devastation. And we see a lot of this is based on race. Trump is saying that America should be basically a white country, And so, African Americans have always fought against that notion. A lot of the African immigrants actually say, "Oh, wow, this guy is good. We could do business with him," and all this kind of thing. Now they're finding themselves in the crosshairs of Trump. So I see African people, by and large, are under threat by this administration. And unless we get ourselves together and organize and unify and get the political process working in our favor, we don't have much chance going forward.
But Melvin, before I get back to Boye, Melvin, will it be fair to say that this administration hasn't recorded any success at all? Whether it's the Israel-Hamas war, there was a peace deal that was signed, whether it's the Thailand-Cambodia war, or the conflict between DRC and Rwanda, a peace deal was also signed. There is also an ongoing peace proposal for Russia and Ukraine. I mean, that must count as success.
Yeah, it all depends on how you look at it. You look at Gaza and Israel, do you call that a success? And, the Gazan people are devastated. Now we're talking about rebuilding Gaza, and $1 billion for if you want to join the club to rebuild Gaza. What does that mean for Gazan people, Palestinians? So we don't see much of this as in favor of people of color. We see the decision to attack South Africa as a country that is oppressing white Afrikaners, which we all know is not true, So we offer white Afrikaners a right to immigrate to the United States as refugees. What kind of fairness is this, And we just think that President Trump is representing the dogma that white people must be protected and white people must be, the leaders of everything. So we're under, we've never seen anything like that. Yesterday we celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday, and it was amazing to see people come together, all kinds of people, Black people, white people, Asians, Hispanic, come together to salute Martin Luther King. And I think it was a matter of therapy for us. Everybody just felt they had to go out and at least know that this is what we really are about. But we have a long way to go. We got to get to Congress. The Democrats have to take the House of Representatives back this year during the vote. And we got to start turning back some of these policies. that are devastating the Africa world.
Well, let me bring in Boye back into the conversation. Before we get to Africa in just a moment, Boye, you can summarize all of Trump's campaign promises into 2 words, America First. And I'm wondering how much of that America First agenda has been realized in 1 year.
I mean, if you look at President Trump and the way he campaigned and all the things he highlighted when talking about America First, he has gone that route completely. Mel mentioned USAID, all those things that directed at the US withdrawing from everything the United States have been known for. Now, that has rippling effects on the whole world, on the whole everything around. So it's devastating for Africa, it's devastating for a section of the country, but that is what Mr. Trump said he was going to do. Another example is, you mentioned the war in Gaza. He listed out 8 wars, but we don't know what's going on in Venezuela right now. We don't know where that's going to end. We don't know where Greenland is going to end. So it's conflicting. There are some things that you say, oh, okay, yes, this is what he promised. He said he was going to do that, America First. But now, Greenland, Venezuela, why are we going in there? There was something he tweeted this morning about showing the map of the flag of the United States over Canada, Venezuela, and Greenland. Is that part of the America First? There are questions that need to be asked from Mr. Trump. But America First, yes, he says it, but we are seeing other things that's conflicting and confusing from Mr. Trump.
And let's get to the U.S.-Africa relations. How fundamentally has that changed in this second administration?
It has changed, and you can tell that African leaders are being cautious and careful. I'm not sure. I think the South African president has visited the White House, and it was chaotic on the day he came. So you can tell that the African leaders are taking a step back and just trying to assess how things are with President Trump. So it's not looking good for Africa. If you look at the list of banned countries, for example, Africa carries a large share. If you can't do business directly or you can't fly in directly to carry out business transactions, it can be damaging on the country, and this will have other rippling effects. So it's a little bit chaotic for African presidents, you can tell.
But Melvin, I'm asking the same question as well. How much the U.S. Africa relations has changed fundamentally under the Trump administration, this second tenure? Because as I'm asking you that question, the first thing that came to my mind is the $15,000 bond that Nigerians now have to put down before they're even considered for visa at all. I mean, just speak to all of this.
Well, I think it's bad. It's nothing but bad. Here we are bombing Nigeria. We're saying that the Christians in the north are being attacked, and everybody knows that all Nigerians are being attacked. Muslims are being attacked because they don't go along with the dogma. And so a big part of the problem is Africa itself is not united and organized. We look at the Africa Union, it seems like it has totally disappeared. We don't see them addressing the problems in Sudan. We don't see them addressing what Trump is saying about Africa. Where is the Africa Union responding to it? That's part of the problem. And then we have the African Ambassador Corps here in Washington, with a few exceptions. I'm not sure Nigeria even have an ambassador in Washington yet. If so, we don't even know who that person is. And so the Ambassador Corps is very, very liked here in Washington. They don't celebrate Africa. So we see ourselves as almost abandoned over here. There's no question about African Americans suffering.
Right. Melvin, allow me to put you and Boye on hold for just a moment. We're going to take a break. When we return, A Word Now continues. Stay with us, everyone, as we continue to examine the 1 year of the Trump administration.
The Inspector General of Police has met with senior officers to review the state of security.
We are continuing our coverage of the arrest of Godwin Emefiele.
The Senate has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to properly brief the Senate regarding the state of the economy.
What I will never take is threat.
Let's now bring you more development from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where an explosion has taken place. Tell us about this incident.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
All right, thanks for staying with us, everyone. You're watching What Now? We are analyzing 1 year of President Trump's administration and the impact it has had on the world, especially Africa. And that's where we are in the conversation. We'll be speaking with Melvin Foote and Boyaki Oku, who are both joining us from the U.S. Thank you both for staying with us. So, Melvin, we're speaking earlier, and we're speaking to that relationship between Africa and the U.S. and how Africa is responding, or how his policies, especially immigration, has impacted Africa. But my question, Melvin, and I'm staying with you, is whether we have had the right response to some of these policies. When he came up with a 3-month visa policy limit, some African countries, about 3 of them, responded by, same principle of reciprocity, also limiting American visa to 3 months stay in their countries. But just generally, how do you think African leaders have responded to the Trump administration and its policies?
I think that response has been very poor, and I think it's been very fragmented. There's no unified response to what Trump is doing to Africa. And so countries are asked to respond individually, and that's very weak. Some of the smaller countries, some of the Sahelian countries have just taken a political stance and say, you're going to charge us $15,000, we're going to charge you $15,000. At least to understand that the U.S. is competing with China, Russia, and other countries for the natural resources in Africa. China doesn't have the same policy toward the United States. So when I look at African entrepreneurs, African countries, what impact this is going to have on them, I think they're going to go straight to Beijing. They're going to go straight to Turkey. They're going to go straight to Abu Dhabi rather than to come to Washington. So I think not only is it going to hurt Africa, this policy, the U.S. policy toward Africa is hurting Africa, it also is hurting the United States. We don't see a win over here in the long term. We're thinking we could just grab resources like we did in Venezuela. That's what we're proposing in Greenland. We're not talking about a democratic process where the people there are deciding to join the United States. We're grabbing it because we want their natural resources. We'll find the same thing in Africa. We're grabbing countries, pulling them aside, giving them a health benefit. If you take our citizens here who are criminals, you take them and put them in your jail, and we smile and we do it. So the African response to the United States is absolutely weak, is not unified, and is not forward leaning.
And boy, as we begin to wind down the conversation, how should African leaders react? Because Europe is learning that there is no way to manage that relationship. Trump is unpredictable and is very transactional in his approach to diplomacy. So what steps should African leaders begin to take in terms of managing that relationship?
I mean, to start with, Mel mentioned the reciprocity about the visa rules. We need to start from there. I know a couple of countries, about 2-3 countries went that route of doing the same thing. We need to take a stance, and that's what you're seeing from the European leaders right now. They are taking a stand collectively to say, okay, you do this, then we'll push back. The world, nobody's an island. Everybody has to work collaboratively. The United States needs things from Africa. We also need things from them, from the United States. So it should be a balanced relationship. Our leaders have to be able to take some strong stance on certain things and follow it through. I believe we're going to see how this plays out with Europe, but I believe the best way is to push back and also put things on the table and have that conversation. You mentioned that President Trump is transactional. Yes, and I think that's the language you understand. And we need to also, put things on the table and have proper conversations.
All right, thank you both. We are monitoring developments around the world. In the Trump administration, it's been 1 year. It looks like 4 years. But we'll continue to follow that development. Thank you both, Melvin Foot and Boya Kiyoko, for your time.